Good evening and welcome to the Monday edition of Source 16 News at 10. Thanks for joining us. New this hour, a manhunt for a Graves County man who's been on the run from the law since April is over. 38-year-old Charles Rogers Jr. of Mayfield was captured on Central Road near the intersection of Kentucky 339 around 9 o'clock last night, according to Graves County Sheriff Dwayne Redmond. He reports that Rogers' daughter, 20-year-old Chelsea Rogers, also of Mayfield, who went missing a little over a week ago, was with her father at the time of his arrest. She was unharmed and reunited with her mother at the Graves County Courthouse a short time after her father's arrest. At the time of Rogers' arrest, he was reportedly in a stolen van, and authorities were able to track a cell phone that Chelsea had purchased earlier in the day in southwest Tennessee. Sheriff Redmond and his deputies, with the assistance of Kentucky State Police, were able to place the calls from the phone in a certain area of Graves County where a deputy spotted Rogers in the stolen van traveling north on Central Road. Rogers was surrounded by police and taken into custody. He was lodged in the Graves County Jail on numerous felony charges, including receiving stolen property over $500, burglary, sex abuse, and other theft charges out of McCracken County and Tennessee. In other news, the Hopkinsville Surface and Stormwater Utility Board tonight forwarded its proposed $1.2 million budget for fiscal year 2011-12 to Hopkinsville City Council for review. Meanwhile, under public comments, Martha Martins of Roney Drive spoke about her neighborhood's ongoing flooding and sewage issues and her concerns about the board's proposed buyout of several properties located on Country Club Lane.
A few months ago, I asked this board to move you into and include you with the Windsor Drive project, which put you at number 3.
Don't put your hand in my face.
Put you at number 3, which means that we moved you up probably 3 years on the list, or maybe more.
But we've been number 4 one time because that's what my husband was told. And this is none of y'all's responsibility. This is none of y'all's responsibility because y'all hadn't informed this. So I'm not blaming anybody there. So you don't have to get so upset.
Well, I'm not upset. I'm just, everybody's explained it to you, and you just keep asking.
I said everybody is putting a different spill on it.
Hopkinsville Christian County Community Development Services Director Steve Bourne told Source 16 tonight the flooding issues on Roney Drive is currently being studied and will be resolved.
What we're looking at doing is currently it's in the hands of the engineer to do a study and to determine the probable cost, provide us with alternatives, and then perform a cost-benefit analysis. Once we receive that information, then the utility will make the determination on what the best course of action should be.
Bourne also spoke about Martin's allegations that the board is proposing to buy out properties on Country Club Lane before fixing her neighborhood's flooding problems.
Our process is of a nature that we go exactly by the master drainage plan in terms of how we address these projects. Independent engineer is hired to review those projects. And based on that review, again, there's alternatives and probable cost and cost benefit analysis provided to the board, and they make a decision based on what they think is the most appropriate expense in these particular issues.
The board then went into closed session and took no action. Family members of a Hopkinsville woman who was brutally shot and killed 17 years ago say they have waited a long time to see Nakia Dillard sentenced today for the kidnapping charge he committed in connection with their daughter's murder. Here's Marie Fainer with more details on this tragic story.
A thing like this, losing a loved one, is just a constant nightmare. You go along with your everyday life, but the tragedy that happened to our daughter Tracy Jordan is in the back of your mind. I just can't imagine how terrified she was when one of the gunmen, namely Nakia Dillard, guy sitting right over there, pulled out his 9mm pistol, and her and Steve Marcus, and then later hearing his gunshots while firing at Steve. Steve trying to escape. Tracy was being hauled off by the other thug while Dillard's shots were going off. She had to be absolutely terrified.
This case, I believe, was originally tried in or about 1994. It's a 1994 case. At that time, Mr. Dillard was convicted of a kidnapping, robbery, and attempted murder of Steve Marcus and the kidnapping of Tracy Jordan. The jury deadlocked on a couple of other charges and did not impose a sentence with regard to the kidnapping charge regarding Tracy Jordan because it was used, I believe, as an aggravator or a possible aggravator with regard to another charge. It is my understanding that the parties have agreed that Mr. Dillard will be sentenced to 20 years to run consecutive to his 3 other 20-year sentences, which all ran consecutive to each other. The sentence for Mr. Dillard would have to be capped at 70 years, and the court believes that, in fact, that is the proper interpretation of the law.
And Nikita, if you're really a man, we'd appreciate it if you'd serve out your time.
Court records indicate Dillard's co-defendant Ernest Rogers died in prison after being convicted of Jordan's rape and murder. An Oak Grove man has been upgraded from critical to stable condition today after being injured in a shooting over the weekend that killed a former Hopkinsville resident. Around 2:30 Sunday morning, Clarksville police say they heard shots fired around University Landing Apartments, where officers found 2 victims in the parking lot suffering from gunshot wounds. Both victims were transported to Gateway Medical Center, where Hopkinsville native 20-year-old Victor Moden Jr. of Clarksville died from his injuries. The other man, 21-year-old Mitchell Blue of Oak Grove, was transported to Gateway, then taken to another hospital where he underwent surgery and has been upgraded to stable condition. Officers located Fort Campbell soldier 21-year-old Fatra in the area with what appeared to be blood on his face, clothes, and shoes, and a witness at the scene identified him as the shooter. At this time, police have not been able to determine a motive behind the shooting or if there was a relationship between the suspect and victims. Ohm is charged with criminal homicide and attempted criminal homicide and is being held without bond in the Montgomery County Jail. Police are looking for the person or persons who stored cocaine in cash in a local storage unit. During a routine business check late last night, Hopkinsville police seized 1 kilo of cocaine and about $2,200 in cash after K9 Enzo indicated there were drugs inside a storage unit at Hopkinsville Self-Storage on West 15th Street. As of news time, no arrest had been made in connection to the drugs and cash, and police are continuing their investigation. Well, a Marshall County woman was arrested on several drug charges after she was pulled over by police for a traffic violation. 26-year-old Catherine Downing of Benton was pulled over by a Marshall County Sheriff's deputy after she failed to make a complete stop Friday night. The deputy says Downing was continuously moving around and fidgety, and when asked if she possessed any illegal drugs, she stated that she had a joint and removed it from her pocket. During a search of Downing's vehicle, police found a bag containing a glass pipe with residue, 4 Lortab tablets, and marijuana. Police say the glass pipe tested positive for methamphetamine. Downing was taken into custody and charged with possessing a controlled substance, meth, marijuana, and drug paraphernalia. She was lodged in the Marshall County Detention Center. A Paducah woman was injured in a wreck in Marshall County over the weekend. Around 12:45 yesterday afternoon, state police report 56-year-old James Huston of Paducah was pulling a 25-foot camper trailer westbound on Interstate 24 when he noticed traffic was backed up at the southbound off-ramp of the Jackson Purchase Parkway due to construction. In order to avoid a collision, Huston veered off the roadway, hit a road sign, and came to a rest on the I-24 ramp on the parkway. Huston's wife, 63-year-old Rita Huston, was transported to Western Baptist Hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. The Purchase Parkway was blocked for about an hour. Meanwhile, wet road conditions on the Pennyroyal Parkway in Hopkins and Christian counties caused 2 crashes over the weekend that left 4 people injured. State police say 33-year-old Jason Vincent of Nebo and his 2 passengers were traveling northbound around 10 o'clock Saturday morning at the 44-mile marker when Vincent lost control of his SUV, crossed into the median, and hit a guardrail. Vincent's SUV overturned several times before coming to rest in the southbound lane. According to police, Jason Vincent's wife and front seat passenger, 31-year-old Jamie Vincent, also of Nebo, was ejected from the vehicle. The couple and their 2-year-old daughter, Campbell Vincent, were all transported to Regional Medical Center in Madisonville for treatment. In the second accident that occurred in Christian County, State Police say 22-year-old Juan Garcia of Fort Campbell was traveling southbound on the Pinnaral Parkway around 8 o'clock yesterday morning. When near the 4-mile marker, his vehicle hydroplaned, ran off into the median and flipped over onto its side, coming to rest in the northbound lanes. Garcia and his passenger, 25-year-old Chanel Robideau of Hopkinsville, were transported to Jenny Stewart Medical Center for treatment. Well, 2 Hopkinsville residents were taken to the hospital Saturday night after a 2-vehicle wreck on Pyle Lane. Around 8:30, Hopkinsville police say 43-year-old Kelly Morris was driving westbound on Pyle Lane when near Bluebird Court and Hillcrest Drive. Her truck crossed over the center line and crashed into a car driven by 31-year-old Scott Fontanilla. According to the report, Morris told police she was talking to her son in the back seat and remembered nothing other than the impact of the wreck. Morris and Fontanilla were transported by ambulance to Jenny Stewart Medical Center, while police report their passengers were not injured in the wreck. Now it's time to take a look at an upcoming chamber event brought to you by the Hopkinsville Christian County Community Vision Plan. The Christian and Todd County Extension offices are offering a hands-on workshop for basic food preservation. You can learn how to can green beans using a pressure canner, tomatoes, and how to make freezer jelly. The class will be Thursday morning beginning at 9:30 until the middle of the afternoon at the Christian County Extension office at 2850 Pembroke Road here in Hopkinsville. There's no cost for the class, but you'll need to bring a sack lunch. And because of limited space, you do need to pre-register by calling 270-886-6328. This chamber event is brought to you by the Hopkinsville Christian County Vision Plan.